from the studios. It is Euroyard. We are just days away now, at the time we recorded this, from the start of the 2026 Eurovision Song Contest. So we know who the players are. We know who the favorites are. We know who the not-so-favorites are. We have all the information that we're going to get prior to the contest. And another thing that we have is our predictions here from Euroyard on the first and second semifinal. Those were separate videos that we put out last week. You can watch those here, and there will be blurbs that pop up in the corner of the screen during the video. You can follow those and see what our predictions were. But what we want to talk about today, in terms of the grand final, wins, losses, everything in between, we want to try to figure out what the best and the worst case scenario is in 2026 for certain countries. Now, we only picked a handful of them. We're not going to go through all 35 countries, but we are going to talk for sure about some of the favorites and maybe just a few other countries of interest in this contest. So best and worst case scenario, as in best case, how well do we think that they could do if everything goes their way, and the worst case scenario if things just don't work out in Vienna for a particular country. So I think the best way to show you what we mean by this exercise is to just get into it and show you what we mean. So the first country we want to talk about is Finland. So I think with Finland, it's pretty obvious. Their best case scenario is winning the contest. That is without a question. Their best case scenario is winning this contest. They are capable of winning this contest. They can win this contest. I think at this point, they probably will win the contest. I don't really want to stick my neck out at this point a week before the contest. I think maybe the Friday in between the second semifinal and the grand final, maybe I'll have something a little more resembling a prediction. But I think at this point, if the contest were right now, and they were counting the votes right now, I think Finland would probably win. So that's obviously their best case scenario. The worst case scenario, I think, is probably something like top 5 somewhere. So that is a pretty tight window for Finland here. I really would be shocked if they did any worse than 5th. I'd be absolutely shocked. This song was not built to come in 6th place or 7th place or 8th place. So I think somewhere in the top 5 is a near certainty, and winning is definitely where they would top out. So let's now talk about Denmark. So the song from Denmark is for Bulgaria. And look, Søren, I think, is a really, really talented performer. I think what he did at DMGP was really good. I thought it was a pretty well-constructed concept. It sounds like they're just going to lean into that even further in the Eurovision performance. I think juries are going to like it, and I think a fair number of televoters are going to like it as well. So I think its best case scenario is winning. I actually do. Now, will it win? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it will, but we're just talking about a best case scenario. This is not a most likely scenario. This is a best case scenario. The best case scenario, I think, is winning. And a best case scenario for all of these countries is what I think is the most realistic best case scenario here. Because technically, every country's best case scenario is to win the damn contest. I think we all realize that. But 34 of them are going to lose, and only one of them is going to win. So realistically, what do I think their best case scenario is for Denmark and Søren and all that? And I think it's winning. Worst case scenario, if everything kind of goes to hell on them, somewhere in the top 10, I think. But I really, really do think Denmark is going to have their best finish in a while here. I think the song is good enough. I think the juries are going to like it enough. So I'm expecting a good outcome here for the Danish this year. So they broke an NQ streak. They got back to the final last year with Sissel, whom I love. Sissel is mother. And now they're going to take that next step again this year. And I'm expecting good things from Denmark. So, Greece. Achilles. Ferto. Sui perfecto. Best case scenario, I think it's like second or third place. And this is why I say that. As much as I love it, and I love him, I think this song would kind of track in the same line as what Karia did, or Baby Lasagna did, or Tommy Cash did. Finishing really high up, but just not winning. I think this could be the next song in that line to do it. So I think somewhere around there is probably their best case. Worst case scenario is probably something towards the bottom of the top 10. Like if the performance doesn't land, it's still going to do well in the televote. But let's just say jury vote isn't really there, and maybe the televote doesn't quite materialize as much. Probably still scrapes together enough points to get into the top 10. But I don't really see it doing much worse than that. Now, I loved Claudia last year. I think it deserved to finish as high as it did. I think this very well could finish better than that song did. There's a chance it could finish worse. But I think it probably does at least as well as she did, if not a little better. So let's talk about Australia. Eclipse is the name of the song. I think the best case scenario is top 5. I have heard people say that they think that the song has a chance to win. It does have a chance. I just don't know if I'm there yet, if I consider Australia a winning song with this one. I think it's good, but I don't know if it's good enough to beat Finland, for example. Because Finland is going all in 2026. They're going all out for this victory. Australia is going to get back to the grand final. Australia is going to put up a good showing. Don't know that they're going to win, but they could very well finish in the top 5. Worst case scenario, probably similar to a few of these other songs like Greece, maybe the bottom part of the top 10. But I think it's going to get enough respect from the juries and at least some of the televote audiences out there to find its way into the top 10 somewhere. Now, France. Let's talk about Regard. France. I think their best case scenario is, either winning or coming in second place. Would I pick this song to win? Probably not. Do I think if everything comes together that maybe it's possible? Yeah. I would say, though, realistically, I think its best case scenario is like second place. Because, I personally don't know if it's better than Finland. I don't necessarily think that it is. But you never know. You never know how votes could fall and things could maneuver themselves on a Saturday. At the Eurovision Song Contest, we've seen crazier things before. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, second or third place. Worst case scenario, somewhere in the top 10. Maybe outside the top 5, but inside the top 10. Kind of similar to where Luan finished last year. So, of course, she came in 7th. I could see this, things break a certain way, maybe coming in 8th or 9th, worst case scenario. But I really do think it's going to head for the top 10. And look, France, where they succeed at this contest is with ballads with big vocals. That's where they succeed. Now, structurally, you may have issues with this song. I know some people do. I know I do. But we're just talking about the range of realistic possibilities for this song. And I just really don't see it falling out of the top 10. Maybe it could, but I just really don't see it. So now it's going to get a little more interesting because I want to talk about Romania. This is a song that has been in the top 10 in the odds in the days before the contest. And Romania coming back to the contest after a few years being out. So I think best case scenario for Romania is probably top 10. I don't know about top 5. I think top 5 might be a little much. But top 10 I don't think is necessarily outside the realm of possibility here. It's definitely a fun song that I think is going to get some support from televoters, and I think it will make the grand final. However, as far as worst case scenario, I actually think it's the lower half of the grand final standings. Like, I think it will get to the grand final. But, you know, I was just playing with some numbers with like jury vote and televote and all that. And I worked up a scenario that was, I thought, plausible, where Romania came in like 17th in the grand final. Now, I think that is definitely a worst case scenario. You know, there is a way in which I could see, well, maybe the juries don't like it nearly as much as we thought they would. And it'll get some televotes for sure. But I think that worst case scenario is based on what happens if the jury votes dry up for this song. Because if the jury votes dry up for this, it'll still get through to the final. But once it gets there, it would definitely be struggling to move up the scoreboard. So worst case scenario is finishing on the right side of the scoreboard. And there's definitely a plausible possibility of that happening. But do I think it'll finish maybe on the left side? Yeah, it very well could. Now let's talk about Sweden, my system. So best case scenario, I don't think is winning. Usually when Sweden has a chance at winning, I feel it. I think we can all feel it in our insides when Sweden has a chance to win, a chance to have Petra host Eurovision again. But I don't think this is a winning song. I think if everything goes perfectly, maybe it sneaks into the top 5, like 5th place. But I don't think that this is... I don't even think that this is as new and exciting as like what Kai did last year. But it's Sweden. You got to keep that in mind. It's Sweden at Eurovision. They are going to pull points from a lot of different places. I just don't think that they will pull enough to get into the top 3, for example. So I think best case scenario for them is probably sneaking into the top 5. Worst case scenario, I can't see them falling out of the top 10. So I would put them somewhere between 5th and 10th for this song. That just seems pretty much also on par with what Sweden normally does. So I think that that's a pretty good range of possibilities for them. Now, Cyprus, Jala by Antigone. This is one that I think some people are going to find to be fun. And again, look, I didn't really watch all of the rehearsal clips. And frankly, even if I did, I don't think I would be changing my views on these songs just based on short clips where we're not getting the full context of the performance. So I don't know how the rehearsals went. I don't know what she's doing for staging. I do know it's a fun song. I do think very much so that it will qualify. Best case scenario, getting into the top 10, I think. Getting into the top 10. Maybe 9th, maybe 10th. I don't know if it's going to go higher than that. Cyprus, it's pretty rare for them to really soar up that scoreboard. I mean, the last time we saw them do supremely well was 2018 with Fuego. But worst case scenario, they've had a number of qualifying songs in recent times that have finished somewhere in the teens, maybe 12th, maybe 15th, maybe 14th, something. I think that's probably the song's worst case scenario. Finishing somewhere in the high to mid-teens in terms of placement. Like probably left side of the scoreboard, maybe just the top of the right side of the scoreboard, that sort of thing. I don't think that this song is going to plummet towards the bottom of the grand final. I think its worst case is probably somewhere in the middle of the pack. So now here's a country and situation that I personally find very interesting. This is Czechia. So Czechia hasn't qualified in a few years, not since 2023. They were a bit of a shock NQ last year with Adonis's song, Kiss, Kiss, Goodbye. This song, Crossroads, I think its best case scenario is probably like a middle of the table performance at the grand final. Like in the teens somewhere, like 12th, 14th, Something like that. I don't think, just based on the history that Czechia has had with the contest and other more recent outcomes like what happened last year, I think if they finished in 13th place, they should take it and run. So that could happen. Worst case scenario, I think they're a shock NQ again. And in fact, that's what we predicted. Now, they might very well qualify. And if they do, good for them. You don't want to see any countries go an especially long time without qualifying for the final. So I'd be very happy for Czechia if they qualify. But their worst case scenario is definitely not qualifying again. And they're kind of going in a similar direction this year in terms of musical output. So I think there are also some other people out there in the Eurovision community who are concerned that they might NQ again. I am concerned that they might NQ again. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But yeah, the worst case scenario is they don't even make it to Saturday. So let's talk about Lionseka and Lithuania, Lietuva. So Solo Quiero Mas is the name of the song. Best case scenario, I think, for Lithuania is it probably like scrapes the outside of the top 10. Because I think he's a very good singer. I think the juries actually could end up liking this quite a bit if it gets to Saturday, and I think it will. So I don't know that I necessarily see this as a top 10 song, but best case scenario, could I see it maybe on the strength of some jury votes coming in 11th or 12th, maybe getting some points from the other neighboring Baltic countries? Sure. Yeah, why not? Worst case scenario, it kind of gets forgotten about and ends up on the right side of the scoreboard, something like that, which I think would be a shame because I really do think he's very talented. But you know what? Also, a lot of these people that you're going to see performing at Eurovision, all 35 performing acts, they're all talented. So it's unfortunate. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. Some countries are going to do well, some are not going to do well. This is one that I just kind of have Lithuania circled as kind of like a dark horse, not to win, but do surprisingly well. But I acknowledge that it's also possible that they won't. And keep in mind, though, too, Lithuania actually has done pretty well at Eurovision in recent years since the 2020s started, since COVID. I mean, we're not talking about contending to win every year, but we're talking like solid middle of the pack in the grand final songs. They're on a qualification streak. So, yeah, who knows? Maybe Lithuania will surprise you this year. So, a couple more countries we want to talk about. Let's talk about the United Kingdom. Look, Mum, no computer. This is 1, 2, 3. So, best case scenario, middle of the pack in the grand final. 15th, 14th, 16th. And I think people will respect it to some extent because it's different, because the UK went in a different direction. They're trying something new. This is a style of music that we don't hear at the contest. So, you know, maybe it'll get some recognition for that. Worst case scenario, I mean, unfortunately, the UK at Eurovision is not what it used to be. Doesn't quite get the recognition that it used to. So the worst case scenario is finishing close to the bottom. And even if it does finish close to the bottom or at the bottom, I don't think it'll get 0 points. I don't think they're going to do what they did a couple of years ago. I do think it'll get points. It'll get points from somewhere. I just don't know how many. So I wouldn't say I'm optimistic about it, but I do think it will get some respect for the fact that they took a risk. So we'll see. And now finally, the last country I want to talk about here is Bulgaria. This is Bangaranga by Dara. So, best case scenario, I don't think best case scenario is top 10. I would like to think that it is because I actually rather do like this song. It might be in my top 10. I just don't know that it's going to be in Eurovision's top 10. So, I don't know. 12, 13, 14. Best case scenario, maybe 11 if things go really well. So a respectable performance in their comeback. Worst case scenario, I would really struggle to see them not qualifying. So I think they'll get to Saturday. Worst case scenario might be like in the middle of the right side of the scoreboard. Just for whatever reason, audiences don't connect with it, or it doesn't get a lot of jury points, and the televote gives it a little bit of a bump, maybe to like 19th or something. But I think that's a pretty pessimistic worst case scenario. But, you know, I really do like that song, and we'll see how Europe feels about it. But we just ran through 12 countries, what I think best and worst case scenarios are. So, again, Eurovision starts Tuesday, and then the second semifinal is Thursday, and then the grand final is Saturday. So maybe between the second semifinal and the grand final, we might have some final predictions, what we think are going to happen. But this video was just to kind of set the stage for expectations going into this contest and realistic ranges of probable outcomes for a few select countries. So it's on to Eurovision next week here at Euroyard. Like and subscribe. Follow us on social media. We'll see you soon.